Welcome to Because We Love You. This is a podcast dedicated to helping you live a life of personal wellness. My name is Jade, and this is my co-host, Stacy.
Hi, everyone. Today, we're going to be talking about community. This is part of a two-part series. The first part we talked about was how we're wired to connect with other people. And today, we're going to be talking about how to connect with friends and family and even strangers.
Yes, and if you see anything or hear anything that you like or a resource, we're going to have those posted on our show notes. So make sure you check that out. And if you like what you see, follow us. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. And if you just want to listen to us on Apple Podcasts. Today, we're going to jump right in. And Stacy, how do we build this community with the people that we love in our life? I think that one way that you've showed me so much, and you use this terminology a lot, is they love so well. I've been loved so well. Yeah. She loves so well. So how did you learn about this love?
Well, I think I've been lucky enough to have really great models of how we love well. Just very lucky with my family, my parents, my grandparents, great friends. And so, one particular story that stands out, and I think I've told you this before, but my grandpa was very good at making me feel loved. And so one time I was in college, and you know how in college, how parents will send these like care packages? Well, some parents do it.
Didn't get it. It's okay. I love you, Mom. Love you, Dad.
Some parents send those care packages, right? Like Halloween, that my friends would get these like fun cards and with candy or money, right? Well, my parents didn't really send me mail that much in college, which is fine. Also, still, Mom and Dad, love you very much. But one day I was complaining to them, like, Mom, Dad, everyone is getting these packages at school, and I never get any mail. And I didn't think anything of it. Well, a few days later, I got a letter in my mailbox at school from my grandpa. And it was just about his day and checking in and saying hi. Well, after that, he sent a letter to me at school every single day for the entire semester, which was so adorable.
It is.
And so every day I would go to my mailbox and there'd be a little letter from my grandpa, and it made me so happy. Although the best part of this story is that he did not write these letters. He typed out one letter and left some blanks and made
That's my favorite part. Hands down. When she told me the story the first time, I was like, he's efficient. And because that's a little ridiculous to write Stacy a letter every day, but at least he just filled in the blanks.
He just made a copy. So every day he would leave a blank, like, today we went to dinner with, and he would leave a blank and he would fill it in about who they went with and where they went. So we don't have to write,
grandpa was smart but efficient.
That's right. He was loving, but
and that's such a great, a great story of how family showed you love. And I think it's also important to note that maybe not everybody has that story, that great story. I mean, we've all been raised in different situations, and not all, just because you were shown love that way, maybe they just showed love differently. So maybe they weren't all not showing love, that your life or your experiences were absent of love. It just looked different.
Yeah, I think that's important, right? That for good or bad, better or worse, our families kind of shape our models of love. They show us what love looks like. And sometimes that's a good thing. And that can look a lot of ways, but sometimes it's not that great.
Yeah. But I think that the cool thing is I think we can still learn to love better.
Absolutely.
And different if we've not always been modeled that 100%. I like, there was it's been years now, but Gary Chapman wrote a book, The Five Love Languages.
He's local, right? I feel like he's from Winston-Salem.
Winston-Salem.
Yeah,
so I'm sure somebody out there knows him, or he may, Gary, come on to the show. I'm sure we could include you.
Yeah.
He wrote this book, The Five Love Languages, and it's been in small groups around America, and it's been highly publicized. But I like it. I like it that it does capture 5 different ways to love, although I think there are many more than 5.
Yeah.
So don't be trapped in the 5.
Yes. Yeah.
But I thought it was like a cool way to show how we love each other. So Stacy, I want to know, how do you, I probably know,
I
but
think you know.
How do you receive love?
So I would say, I mean, certainly, there are many ways, but I think physical touch is mine. Like, and that's hard, especially in the middle of a pandemic. Like, people don't want you to touch them. But I love touching people
I would get the
appropriately.
vaccine just for you.
Thank you.
Just so I could touch you.
Which you did. So
I did.
now we can touch.
I got it for other reasons too. But if I had to do it just to touch Stacy's hair, I would do it.
Yes.
You're worth it.
So thank you. I love Jade plays with my hair. I love hugging people, sitting next to people. It was funny the other day, my daughter also, her love language is certainly physical touch, as you know. And so she is always touching me. And she went to bed. And I normally don't get sick of that because I love it. And I was telling my husband, like, she just wants to be touching me at all times, right? And we're on the couch, and I, of course, have, like, my feet on him and my arm around him. And he was like, welcome to my life. Like, so, yes, physical touch, definitely mine. What about you?
I do like physical touch. I also like quality time.
Yeah.
So it's hard too, because I feel like I have friends that are multiple places, and so that often brings a barrier, because it's like, I need to spend time with you. Like, I want those, but it means the world to me if in your busy schedule you just stop and say, hey, I just want to cuddle on the couch. Yeah. I just want to go swimming. I just want to go walk, when I know that, like, there's a lot of other things that you could be doing, but you chose to spend it with me. So that shows love a lot. But there are more. So if you're sitting out there and you're like, that is gross, do not touch me.
Yes.
Maybe I do like
that who are like, not a hugger.
And even I have friends that are just like, I don't need that much time with people. Like, I want more time by myself. Yeah. But even for you, there's ways that you receive love. Yeah. Some of them are just like gifts. Yeah. A lot of people, I mean, it just takes a simple Starbucks coffee or a pretty ring or a pocketbook. And it's like, that really shows me that you love me.
Yeah. Or words of affirmation. That's a big one. I mean, I think we all enjoy that, of course. But, someone telling you what they appreciate about you and that you're doing a great job.
And it's so easy not to. Let's be real.
Yeah.
That's one of my husbands. And sometimes I forget just to say, thank you. I appreciate you. Yeah. I love you. Yeah. And then acts of service. I think for a lot of women, that might be yours, because I've heard doing the dishes.
Or at least that's how you show love. We tend to show love that way.
Yeah.
Right? By caring for our families.
And receive it too. Like when the man does the dishes. I've heard, like, that doesn't do it for me. So, and my husband knows that. But I just think that's a mutual responsibility, personally. Like, we do half. We're in this together. But some people, like, when that happens, they feel very, very loved.
Yeah.
But I think it's important to note, we often spend a lot of time thinking about, like, how do I receive love? Because we think that's the catapult to feeling happy, right?
Right. But, interestingly, we just read this article that was in The Atlantic by Ashley Fetters, and it was talking about how the love languages, which there's not a super, high, a lot amount of science on love languages, but a little bit more starting to show they're valid. But interestingly, she was talking about how we tend to misinterpret them and we focus so much on ours. Like you said, what we really should be doing is thinking about how the people in our lives receive love, right? And what is love to them. It's more important that I know, what is love to you and to my spouse and to my children than what mine is.
Yeah. And then that creates a world where we're all giving each other what we need. Yeah. Because if they're also focused on that, I definitely think about that my friends have done that with me every year at my birthday, right? A few of you remember that. I love high octane, fun, touching, competition, growling, getting a little bit mad at each other, chants, unity. I mean, there's a lot of weird things, but I just love that. Yeah. And I don't often get that because I realize that not everybody really enjoys those. But once a year on my birthday that just happened, June 25th, whoop, whoop, my friends get together and they say, this is your day. We're gonna be in it to win it. We're going to have good attitudes.
We're going to be fine getting bruises from pool basketball.
Broken nose. You've only had one broken nose, Stacy, right? Like one volleyball.
Basketball to the face.
See, it was worth it. It was worth it. But I feel so loved at that at that time. And I think that's just an important, because they have recognized that's how she receives love. And that's the friend I want to be. So when I see that, it just makes me more in tune to, oh, well, how did they? The next time, what can I do to make them feel like I felt?
Yeah, I feel like your birthday is always very stressful to me, because it's like, I'm always like trying to pick out the perfect gift. I mean, not in a bad way, but like, I want to get you something that you'll love.
Gifts.
But I know you don't care about that at all. And so what do you bring? And, my gut is to help plan the party, to set it up, to do the dishes after. But I know if I just brought a gift and, did your dishes and left, that wouldn't look like love to you. And so I know it means, like, at the end of the night, we have to sit on the couch and talk about all the best parts and worst parts and relive it and spend that quality time, or you don't feel loved. So, very important to think about anytime. And you play with my hair, and so then I feel loved, and it's just a big love fest. So
It is. So we were reading, do you remember the study, Emma Seppala?
Yes.
And the book that she read. So we were reading this, and this had a kind of a lot to do with like what we're talking about.
Yeah, she talked a lot about compassion. So she's at Yale, and she wrote a book called The Happiness Track. So you may be interested in checking that out. We'll make sure to link that too. But she talked about compassion, and she defined it like this. So it's the emotional response when we perceive suffering and our desire to help, like our authentic desire to help when we see that. And I think that's just a really important part of loving people, and there are a lot of related concepts here, thinking about things like empathy, like we just talked about, putting yourself in someone else's shoes, compassion, taking the steps to want to help someone when you perceive that they're in a situation that's suffering. And I know there are a lot of benefits in our lives to being compassionate.
Yeah. When you're not compassionate, you tend, because there's a pathway that she talks about, because compassion goes down to connectedness, that goes down to community. And so this is still in the big theme of community. And when you don't have that and you're lonely, we know that your blood pressure's higher. I see that in the clinic. We know that you're more prone to eat more and to have diabetes and to be less active, and to be a heavier weight. We also know that mental health and anxiety and depression is higher in this group. One interesting thing is that actually your immune system is decreased. So you tend to be sick more, and it gets until you see it hands-on and that like the stories of these people. But then I have seen people come out of that, and it's been amazing. I've seen people come into the office once a month, once every 2 weeks, and I talk to them about just their engagement and finding a friend, and they get better at that. They get better at that compassion and community and giving of their self, and I don't see them anymore. And they come back at regular visits, and they're like, oh yeah, I've been busy with this, and I've been doing this, and I've been doing this. And it's like, it is such a health benefit to put yourself, kind of push yourself to the side and just say, hey, I want to give of myself. I want to volunteer more. I think volunteering is a great way kind of to show compassion in that.
Yeah, and then kind of in addition to those physical health benefits, we also know, clearly, as you kind of alluded to, the social benefits. And she talks about how, compassion creates this feedback loop. And so when we think about social connectedness, that then leads to a positive experience, right? We put ourselves out there, we're compassionate, then we have a good social experience, then we want more social experiences, and then they're more positive, and you kind of, it kind of builds into this positive social loop.
This gets me thinking, just this morning, we dropped my 3-year-old son off at preschool, and we walk him to the door, and he walks in, and he put his hands on his hip, and he says, howdy, howdy, howdy. And
amazing.
We didn't tell him. He's never done this before, and the whole class erupts and says, Zaya, you're here. The teacher's like, well, okay, cowboy. And, it just created this element of we're starting the day off good. And I started thinking, because we've been reading this is a positive feedback loop. Because he had that positive experience, he's going to be more willing to put himself out there the next time. And then by that, he's got more friends. And he's got his teacher. He's got his teachers on his side. He's got people in his corner. And he creates an overall better, enjoyable experience. I think, but it's also sad, because I think it can go the other way. That there can be students with a negative feedback. And that's what she points out, is they have one experience that was negative, and it kind of cascades them into, oh, they don't want to be with me. My
Right.
teachers are not in my corner. And that's lonely, and they stop showing compassion and they stop being connected in community.
Absolutely. It's hard to overcome that. And I think we could probably all think of an experience where, we put ourselves out there. Either you were vulnerable, you tried to connect with someone, you told a joke, you did something silly, you asked someone for coffee, and we were rejected. And that feels so bad. And then, like you said, it kind of feeds into that loop. And then we step back. We're not as compassionate. We're not as open. And then it keeps feeding that loop. And so I think we just have to be so careful.
I always feel a little tug of my heart, like when somebody tells a bad joke and like nobody laughs. It's like, ha, ha, ha. Like I don't want you to never tell a joke again. It's just that one was bad.
Material, but
that one was bad. But I think that this can make us all more sensitive to that. It's like, you just think it was a bad joke. Let me go on with life. But is this creating a part of their negative feedback loop? And will this eventually kind of affect them?
Yeah, and we think a lot about this with the people we love, and that's kind of how we started. But this is true even when we're connecting with strangers. And I think there's a lot of research coming out showing that you don't just need the people you love, but actually it's important to connect with strangers, with people you don't know.
Yeah. Don't shut us out. I know this is big for a lot of people.
Yes.
It's like, I do not have time for that. I do not want that. But I think there's been some interesting studies that were done by Dr. Stranstrom with Starbucks.
So she did a study where they essentially imagine going into Starbucks, right? And so they gave people a gift card to go into Starbucks and get their coffee. And half of the participants were told, just go in, get your coffee, get out, make the transaction as efficient as possible. Don't say hey or interact with them about their personal
Comment
life.
below if you are that person.
Some
Share
of you are
your
that
experience.
person.
How many of those do we have in the house?
But then the other half were told that when you go in, make sure to connect with that person, try and say hey, ask them something personal or share something personal. So make it an experience where you connect with that individual. Those people came out, they surveyed them, and people were way happier. They saw a boost in mood, in positive mood when people interacted with a barista. And they also saw an increased sense of belongingness, which is crazy because it's with a stranger. We think probably that belongingness always comes from people we know. But just by connecting with this person at the coffee shop, these people felt better, they were happier, and just felt that sense of belonging, which is so important.
So my husband's in that last category. He loves to engage. And I kind of discount this because I'm like, those people I have no use for them. I'm not going anywhere with them. That philosophy, if I'm not gonna date them, if I'm not gonna marry them. You have that sometimes. That's how I have with strangers. So this study has really opened my eyes but it can even just be a short-term boost of this like belonging. But sometimes those short-term boosts can also create these long-term boosts.
Lead to long-term effects. And there's also this researcher, Erica Boothie, and she was talking about this thing called the liking gap, which I think is an important part of this because you're probably out there thinking, this is so weird. I don't want to talk to strangers, and strangers don't want to talk to me. But this liking gap is the idea that we think we enjoy those interactions with strangers more than they enjoy them. But research shows that's not the case, actually, that both parties benefit from it and both parties tend to enjoy it. So if you're hesitant, just try and do it anyway because you'll feel better and they'll feel better.
I mean, you can definitely read social cues. They'll let you know when they're done. I mean, don't just sit there all day and talk to the barista. She's got a lot to do here. She's got a lot to do. But you can just get those minute of conversations that maybe just change your day. I mean, have you ever had anybody just change your day in just like a statement? Like, wow, you look bright and happy today. Wow, you did a really good job. And I think that can, or even just thanking them. I have a special feeling during COVID and the workers and the extra stress. It's like, be kind to those who are working. So maybe you just need to say, hey, you're doing a really good job. And I'm so happy we have you in our community, or I'm so happy that you're, healthcare professionals and whatnot. So we can change their day. We have the power to do that.
Definitely. And I think, as I mentioned, I know that some of us struggle with this. I certainly get nervous and have some social anxiety around talking to strangers. And something that's been really helpful to me is this this speaker, pastor, creator in LA named Erwin McManus has what he calls party theology. And actually, this is old content from him, but it's really stuck with me because he talks about with party theology, essentially that we keep making our circle bigger, right? There's always a seat at the table, always room to invite someone else. And one of the best pieces of advice that I always try and keep in mind is that stop waiting for the friend, stop waiting for someone to be your friend, and be a friend. And I feel like that's been so helpful. Like, don't wait for someone else. If you want to, you see someone that maybe you want to talk to or build a relationship with, you don't need to wait for them. Be the person, be the inviter, be the person who says, hey, let's grab coffee or let's read this book together. I just try and always remember that, and I feel like it's been really powerful in my life in shaping how I interact, both with people I know, but also with strangers. Yeah.
I personally love the there's always a seat at the table because I just feel like everybody has such benefit, and they can provide so much to enjoyment. And I often get a hard time sometimes because the running joke is like, we'll go on a vacation, and they'll be like, well, who did you invite?
Yeah.
And I'll meet somebody for like
at the bus stop
10
today,
minutes, and I'm like, they're awesome. They were so fun. I think that they'll be great. And there's a balance to that on both parts. But I think it's been a great team experience learning this.
We're very different in this way. I think when you think about people, you kind of see the potential of those relationships more easily. Like, even if that's something you struggle with, like, this could be our next friend. This could be, and I just tend to get nervous about those things and just want to stay with my people, the people I feel comfortable with and love.
But you're getting so much better.
I'm
really impressed, and I love to see that growth and like how you're seeing that's exciting and fun.
So we've learned from each other. I've grown. You've learned to set limits, that we don't invite people we just met to.
But everybody's a stranger. Everybody's a stranger at first. Okay, so I think I have a problem with the Starbucks 1 minute conversation, but not as much like if I'm going to be in the community with them, they're going to be a stranger at first. But we can just say a few things and start that conversation and see where it goes. But there's always a seat at our table.
So that's your challenge this week, right? And we want to hear about it. We're going to try and do it too. So try and connect with a stranger. Just say, hey, have a conversation with them, or maybe there's someone in the workplace that you want to invite for lunch or for coffee or for drinks. Let us know how it goes. We'll do it too. We'll invite someone to our table.
So why do we talk about these things, Stacy?
Because we love you.